Well, good morning and welcome. I'm glad let me just adjust my lighting here so I can see my screen, which would be a whole lot better. Oh, much better. Gosh, if I haven't spoken to you this year, Happy New Year, Happy 2024. First lecture of this season. And we're going to start off this week actually with a few different lectures that will help you reset your branding and really take control of your job search. You know, things have gotten even more difficult over the last year. And your branding will help. Let me just adjust how I present here. No, not like that. There we go. There's my favorite. Okay, so as we get into today and begin to think about things, we're going to have a couple things coming up this week. Today's focus is really about your resume. Your resume's job is to get you that interview. If it's not getting you the interview, there's really something wrong. So we're going to present resume renovation today and really showcase all of that for you of how you take control of the job search and everything else. So welcome again for those that are just joining in. The other lectures coming up this week, tomorrow, that's Tuesday at 10 a.m., is building your professional network on LinkedIn and really how to showcase your career branding, your story across a LinkedIn profile that becomes a three-dimensional sales brochure all about you that naturally drives the reader to one singular conclusion. My gosh, if I hire this person, work with this person for the project, best business decision I make this year, certainly since it's January. On Thursday, we're going to be presenting interview intervention. You know, so many of us go into the interview with this idea that we're there to answer questions. Well, yes, to some extent, but you're there to use the device of a Q&A to position and sell yourself. You're there really to teach them how to select you. That's 10 a.m. on Thursday. I hope you come back for that. Now, if you miss any part of today's or any of the lectures this week, they're all available on playback. They're live streaming on my LinkedIn, on my Facebook page, and also on my YouTube channel. Let's jump into resume renovation. Solving your resume's issues involves a whole paradigm shift of our mental state of what a resume is. Go back and grab any number of books on resume and very quickly begin to drone out because they're all essentially the same for the last few decades, all the different various styles, thinking that just the prettiness or presentation piece without its ability to communicate within seconds is going to solve anything. So we have to focus not only on the story itself, which has to be transformed into what they want to hear, not what you want to tell. Those are two very, very different things. And of course, in accomplishing that and making it digestible within seconds, that means we have to do an awful lot of work on formatting. I'll share why my specific background is really the right one you should listen to, but take in all the advice you hear, and then only one person actually has to make the decision, and that is you. So fixing the story and the format, which means we're going to have to show how we can be effective. And in today's world, that's also how we can be effective and engaging in a remote situation, whether that's a hybrid or a partial in office or whatever it might be, or full remote. If you haven't done that yet, gosh, you've missed out. There were some very interesting times working remotely for most individuals, and some still are, and some have gone back to hybrid, and a few to the full office experience. But if you haven't partake in that particular piece, you may feel at a disadvantage for some opportunity looking for remote. So be sure to think about other ways that you might have been effective at a distance. And that's all the things you see here that I don't necessarily have to read them all, but you've interacted with vendors, you've interacted with customers, you've interacted with clients and partners, probably all off-site over conference call. In today's world, certainly with Zoom, everything else, Teams, whatever you might be using. So let's think about how you might give that story. Additionally, there might be some more icing on that cake of the story of being effective at a distance. Probably handled conference calls or webinars possibly, or maybe you've done conference calls, or gosh, I hope you've spoken to an audience. If you're at that level in your career, it can be a game changer. So this paradigm shift is more than just a little bit of touch up, like a little bit of clothing, a little bit of makeup, a little bit of lighting. It's more than that. It means we have to go back to the fundamentals of what the real problem is. And the real problem here today, and I used to have to say this at all my lectures at the library, there were hundreds of lectures across many branches of the New York Public Library, Department of Labor, Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, Harvard Business School Club of New York City, many other places. The problem is no one wants to read. And that is a problem. But we can solve things if we understand that real challenge. So if you haven't seen me speak before, haven't heard me, John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker. Resume and LinkedIn guru as well. So if you're one of the individuals, as most are, that are suffering from very poor storytelling in your career, you've lived it, but you don't know how to tell it because that's not your expertise. Well, I can certainly help you reframe and reset your career branding to a very, very different level that will open doors and opportunities that honestly you never dreamed you'd be able to get into. A lot of the ideas are in my book, the Self-Recruiter book. You can check out Amazon for that. Also, be sure to check out my Self-Recruiter website. A lot of resources there, especially under the advice tab. A lot of great insights there. Book itself is a little bit of a roadmap that'll help you. We're not going to spend too much time on that today. So some other things that will help you on my LinkedIn profile. There are some articles posted. Don't let your resume become resume roadkill. That'll further what I teach you today. 5 keys to supercharging your job search, or the biggest devastating mistake in job search, time mismanagement, only resource you actually have as a job seeker. And most individuals waste it all away sitting on the internet, looking at job postings until really there's no magic happening for them. And they just sit there and go, gosh, why aren't they calling me? Well, I think you should become a self-recruiter. This is an individual that is a great recruiter, but only working with one individual, and that's you, representing you, selling you, thinking of the strategy roadmap, thinking of the conversation you need to have. What are the interview points I need to present to win them over? That's what this individual does and thinks like. It really is about taking control in your job search and learning how to, in a nice way, not take no for an answer. And no just means try again if you've got the gumption, if you've got the backbone. Also means we have to keep one eye on the toughest competitor imaginable. Those 4, 5, or 6 people, they're going to take that opportunity from you. If you just stick your head in the sand, they will beat you every single time. But if you look at them, if you analyze them, first off, there are no perfect people out there. Well, I mean, don't we all sometimes think we're perfect? But we're all defective. We're all human beings. That's the state of being human beings. So these perfect people, what is it that's wrong with them? Oh, a great many things that the facade might cover up. I want you to understand how you can outmaneuver almost anyone that seems perfect with the proper preparation. Those perfect people don't actually prepare, most of them. They get dressed, they present themselves. It's like, that's what we all have to do. That's not actually preparation. A little bit of strategy, a little bit of preparation, you can outmaneuver them very, very quickly. So we'd all like to see that job, go after the job, get the job, if it was really only that easy. But problem is that everyone's doing the same thing that you're doing. They're hitting that darn button, which almost never says apply, almost always says submit, all capital letters, until we're so submissive. It's like a Friday night waiting for that phone to ring. It's going to ring. It's going to ring. I don't really think so. If it does, it's going to be a telemarketer or some scam, whatever. So just don't answer those things. Rut. This is the rut that we've all found ourselves in, this groove, this channel back and forth. And it leaves us in a very unhappy place, which all comes out of lack of control of your story and grasping why you're engaging and valuable, what you can deliver for these organizations, and also a lack of understanding that not only is this entire thing a sales process, but it's also something else we don't like, a dating process. Ooh, yeah, it's sales and dating mixed together. We're going to talk about that. And if you don't consider it, you're going to be left behind. So whatever's happened to you, layoffs, whatever it might be, had to take time off because of a health challenge, anything else. Well, whatever it is, get over with it. That has to be a thing of the past. Let's discover why we know we're better than the 5 or 6 next individuals that might be after that. And let's figure out how we're going to take control. That is really the solution here. And that means we have to think about not only the usual, customary, and expected, but also the unusual, the unconventional, and certainly the unexpected. And we'll guide you through a lot of that, both with the resume today, the LinkedIn profile tomorrow as that sales brochure, and really how you use it in social media, and also how you take control of the interview on Thursday to teach them how to select you. It's your job across all of these vehicles. These are storytelling vehicles about you. It's your job to be persuasive. If you don't believe the story more than anybody else, why would anybody else believe it? So we are going to have to drink just enough of that Kool-Aid so that we have true belief in ourselves. Don't drink so much that you begin to fool yourself. That's not going to help. But we do have to get our confidence up. We have to get our energy up. We have to be ready. So let's get right to the crux of the point here. Why does a resume still matter? Isn't this a digital world? Isn't it really LinkedIn? Well, in some cases, but resume tends to be the first point of contact. It's how you take control of the discussion. LinkedIn could be the first point of contact if you build a really great, engaging profile. But for the most part, the resume is really how you control discussion. And as someone walks that resume down the hall, that sales document about you can either tell a story or be drab and lifeless that no one will read. And you have to think about the effect of that. But let's think about the challenge before I get into the actual solutions for you. So by the numbers, and in case you didn't know my background, let me share a little bit of that now, which will make the numbers make more sense for you. Last 10, 12 years, I've worked directly with clients, helping them rebuild their career brand, raise that to a new level, understand how to overcome challenges in discussion, and really sell their assets off. Before that, spent 8 years or so in outside recruitment. That's a traditional headhunter on a desk. Now, did 3 different disciplines as a recruiter. 2 of them were national market, which means never met anybody, every single thing over the phone, lots of placements. And yet most job seekers think that it can't really happen over the phone. I mean, it can't really happen over the phone without them meeting me. Sometimes it can. So that's part of the problem. As a recruiter, I did 2 national market and then the 1 local market. Suddenly the local market, Manhattan, my boss is like, get out there and meet people, get out there and meet people. But why? I'm so good over the phone. Well, when you meet people in person and you become a master over the phone, you realize, wow, in person, it's like taking candy from a baby, because it's very difficult for people to say no to you in person. So much more difficult than over the phone. Ended up being the national trainer for the entire 100 office recruiting system, 3.5 years of being the national trainer, overseeing all of these different recruiters, all of these different specialties, all these fields, understanding and teaching others how recruitment really works, which is not how people think it works. And then, of course, being VP over that 100 office system before moving out on my own. Before that, even, another relevant thing for today is I ran a pre-press service bureau, which means I really do understand line and type and spacing, both in physical world like a resume or digital world like LinkedIn, and how that affects communication. So let's get to the numbers that I discovered as a recruiter, which are very, very true even today. So it's not just your resume, it's 1,000 to 2,000 resumes. If this is any kind of a decent job, it's 1,000 to 2,000 resumes being sent in, or might I say in today's world, spammed in by various, I won't even name the websites to harm them, but various resume services that promise to get your resume in front of people. And they essentially spam your resume everywhere, which isn't really a great approach. So how are you going to be visible between 1,000, 2,000 resumes? In fact, back to what I said about no one being able to read or no one desiring to read any longer, who could do all of their own job and read 1,000 to 2,000 resumes? But that's not really the challenge, just the tip of the iceberg. So in the Who Can Read challenge, it's 1,000 emails, 1,000 resumes, 1,000 cover letters. Can I, if it was only 1,000, can I read all of those things? And that's still only a chip off the iceberg, not even just the tip. But a recruiter, and that's whether they have the internal recruiter title or external headhunter recruiter title like I had, they tend to work on 10 open jobs at the same time. So who can read 10,000 emails, 10,000 resumes, 10,000 cover letters? And just now you're beginning to understand the real problem of, I'm perfect, but why didn't they respond? I think you see what's going on here. So we have to kind of break through that, because we have mere seconds to capture their interest, capture their attention, and be put in what I consider the good stack, which we're going to talk about in a moment. So one of the failures of most job seekers is they fall in this trap of, I guess the way I solve that is to be cookie cutter perfect. I want to just be cookie cutter perfect. Here I am, cookie cutter perfect. I'll be just the same as everybody else. Well, that's great. Okay, number 3, I'm going to hire you. I'm paying you less. What? You don't want less? Okay, but it doesn't matter. I'll take number 2. I'll take number 5. you're cookie cutter perfect, all of you, I can just interchange and swap you. So you realize the problem here. You can't allow yourself just to be this swappable person. Hey, hi there, David. Thank you for coming back. Yes, we are doing lots of different things in our lecture series coming up. So watch the Self-Recruiter calendar page to know what's coming up there. But this cookie cutter perfect, you have to, yes, be cookie cutter perfect, but also be that exceptional, different, special individual that steps out of line, somehow gets extra recognition. And this means as we work on our resume, we very likely have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 iterations of that resume to get to the right one. So I don't want to leave you with the idea you're going to spend 2 hours after this session working on your resume, coming up with the all new great one. You have the first iteration after that time, but you likely need the second, third, fourth, and fifth, or even more iterations to get to the right resume that positions and sells you and removes the obstacles that they imagine. Small changes change perception, so every little bit is important. So let's start with your story. That's the first part, and then we have to fix the formatting piece. But the story, most people can't tell it effectively. You've been telling that story in interview over a number of years and in almost the similar way, and you've gotten into a story rut. So you need to close down for an inventory of all the different things I've been involved with that are sellable, that we can really showcase in a new way, that we can elevate. So I do this with my clients, and I think that if you're going to do this on your own, you should follow more or less the same style that I follow. And that is, I will sit with my clients in about a 90-minute session, and we dig through every piece of the background. We're under the rock, we're under the bed, we're in the closet. We're looking for every single piece of story that somehow slipped away or was put away or hidden away. Or hide that away because we have some personal baggage to it. And after you discover every single thing from start to finish of your career that could be considered, well, very likely, like I do, you probably have 8 or 9 pages of notes at a minimum. And maybe it can be as simple as grabbing a highlighter, looking at, being very stingy, by the way, and looking across these 8 or 9 pages of notes and thinking about what's the ruby, diamond, or emerald here that floats, or the drop of perfume that floats to the surface. And those little things get the highlight. Highlight too much, it's of no use at all. So be very, very stingy. Is it resume worthy? We look at all the highlighted pieces. You probably have what actually has to make the resume. The rest is all negotiable, and you have to give and take and massage that story that has to be letter true until it's the perfect balance that positions and sells you. Yes, you want to be qualified and capable, but if you spend your resume trying to prove to me you're qualified and capable, I'm sorry, I don't really believe you too much, because confident individuals don't tend to try to prove anything. That can be a trap as well. People that are not confident tend to try to overprove it, which introduces doubt, actually, even if it's all theirs. So we have to be concerned and think about those things. But most people leave out the second part you see here. They leave out why they're interesting in the first place, what makes them tick, what drives them. You realize that's what I'm hiring. Yes, I want you to be qualified and capable, but I don't hire you because of that. Don't miss here. I wouldn't hire anybody I didn't believe qualified or capable, but that's not the decision point for me. Why are you interesting? What makes you tick? What drives you? Because I'm building a team, and the team has people that pre-exist, and there's a certain flow and energy, and I have to find the right match that brings everything that I'm looking for, but also fits with this team. And I'm looking for someone that I can spend my waking life with. You know, you realize when you hire someone, you tend to spend more lifetime with them than you do even with your own loved ones. So that's why we want to like you, really, because I got to spend 7 or 8 hours with you potentially. So what is it about you? Now, the interesting and makes you tick thing, let me get a little drink here of my coffee. The interesting and makes you tick thing is a magical piece here, but we miss it because we think, oh, but I'm interesting because of something non-work life. Really? You think that couldn't have appeal to the person you're going to spend 7 or 8 hours a day with? What makes you tick and drive you? Well, I run, 5 marathons this year. Really? And you don't think that's part of the story? Why? That's not part of my work life. Yes, but they might see that and they might go, good energy, good drive, unstoppable, goal-driven, probably even really good on my healthcare costs. Oh boy, they do think about it all. So we have to balance this story with just a little bit of the things that become the drizzle on top of that expensive dessert, or the sparkly on top of that, or maybe even that one single cherry on top. And that's how you begin to make that magic happen. So think about these 8 or 9 pages of notes all about you and begin to distill that down. This is how you create your brand. You elevate your brand, which is all of these things that I'm not really going to have to read to you. It's everything that can separate you out from other people. So thinking about your brand, thinking about your notes, it's really about answering one simple question, which I talk a lot about in my lecture series. And that is, why is it going to be the very best business decision they make today if they choose to hire you? So that's the basic lens that we have to look at everything, not the emotional pieces of the story you'd like to tell. Oh, I want to tell this, I want to tell that. Oh, you saw the brick in the head go by there. Let's tell you the story of this resume. I was speaking at the New York Public Library, giving a lecture. And right after the lecture, which was, of course, on resume, somebody comes up to me and they go, well, I've been told all I can expect is more of this. I'm like, what is it? What is it? If you haven't seen me before, you probably already get the sense that I have a lot of passion for what I do. I have a lot of energy. And after a lecture, a live in-person lecture in front of an audience, boy, isn't there a lot of adrenaline and everything else. And right away, I'm facing this monolith of text and I'm getting sleepy. Oh, I better ask a question. What would you like to do? There, that'll get me out of it. Oh, I'd love to be in events. I'm like, hey, that's some great energy. Have you ever done events? Ouch. I'm me holding this resume. It says events coordinator right there, and I can't even see it with this wall of text hitting me in the head like a brick. Oh, yes, I see the impressive law firm. Very impressive, very impressive. By the way, there's impressive and impressive. Impressive law firm. Yes, absolutely. But your whole story gets lost. So what this person was facing is, you're a law firm person, more law firm for you, more law firm for you. Not really what they'd like to do. This is that same background magically transformed. I'm telling you, it's magically transformed of how you change the story. It's the exact story they did. What we did was leave out 50% of the job, which is largely administrative, which they didn't want to do again. So this person did a lot of amazing things. They did event planning. They did the coordination of all the assignments. They did the photo shoots. They did amazing things at Guggenheim, Lincoln Center, the New York Public Library, at the Met, Morgan Library Museum. It's like, those are all A+ venues. If you did events at those venues, anybody would hire you tomorrow in events. Where's that story? Of course, they were also the speaker wrangler. Speaker wrangler? God with the lasso. What's the speaker wrangler? It's like, I did the catering, the RSVP, and then I handled the speakers. Well, who are these speakers? Tom Brokaw, a bunch of other people, Charlie Rose. Some of those names you have to update eventually and remove them. But we have to think about what that actual story should be and tell that story. By the way, in parsing out your story of which to tell and which not to tell, this is not a confessional moment. Grew up Catholic and all about confession. This is not a confessional moment. But don't mishear that. Everything we say must be absolutely letter true. But there's no sin of omission, only sin of commission. So I can leave out any part of the story I'd like to leave out. I can include only just the best parts that present me the direction I'd like to. This is part of the transformation, the metamorphosis that we have to go through. We're a product, and we have to redefine what this product really is. We don't have to be all things we've ever been before. We can narrow this product down to a specialty and elevate that. Part of how you make engagement, which is a lot closer to this style engagement than the other. Small changes change perception. How are you going to change perception with your personal branding? So as we think about it, we go back to the brand piece that we looked at earlier, all those things that begin to help separate you out from others, which include not only the resume, LinkedIn profile, your cover letter, all of your messaging, but even how you speak to another individual, what kind of a voicemail you leave them, what style of conversation you have in an interview, not a question, answer. I don't know if that may be their style, but I'm going to answer back conversationally until I warm them and open them up like a flower. Let me show you a few resumes I pulled right off the internet. Someone was collecting resumes over on Pinterest. Oh, thank you so much. I love to look at resumes too. It's almost easier to understand what I tell you and teach you today once I poke a few holes in what you see here. So let me just move my side screen over a little bit more so I have a better view of it too. I can give you better comments. So as we look at all of this, Kelly here, kudos to Kelly on his or her brand. I get it. Nice, big, bold. Yep, took off the last name. Figured you didn't really need that there. But I'm not sure shades of yellow was really the right choice. Prints out as shades of gray. Hard to look at on screen if I'm looking at it in color. And that's really the last positive thing I have to say about this resume. This resume suffers from what most resumes suffer from, and that is a complete failure to consider information architecture. Yes, that's your job when you construct a really great resume. You know, just like a really large building, you just can't like throw those things up or they come tumbling down. How do I design it so everything works? Everything has to be thought out. What if they only read 30% of your resume? No. 10% of your resume, maybe even just 5% of your resume. Which 5, 10, or 30% would you like them to read? That's your decision based on how you put the resume together, how you make it accessible to them. So here, I don't know if I'm supposed to start down this side and then go over here, or should I read across? I'm not complete failure when I have just a few seconds to have an opinion about this individual. Julia. I don't know if you can read the little comments on the bottom. I did not write those. It said, who said the name had to be at the top anyway? Well, I'll say it if no one else will. The name has to be at the top. The subtitle of my book is Changing the Rules. I believe in changing any rule that does not work for you. But there are a few rules you cannot change. This is one of them. What's expected on a resume? Name at the top. What else is expected? Employer title, employer title, employer title. At least 2 or 3 of them for time, relevance, of skill. Yes, I'd like to see all of them. Don't mishear me there. And of course, education. Now, what's their eye pattern when they look at that? A reverse half moon. This violates all of that. And you know, I love changing the rules, but it just creates disruption that kills the story flow. So yes, name does have to be at the top. And again, that's the last positive thing I have to say. Well, I really didn't have anything positive to say about this resume. Sorry about that. This resume, though, does a few things I can teach you about. And it does make some really tragic mistakes. The first tragic mistake is it puts the single reason I would never hire you right in front of their eye pattern. You know, that reverse half moon. What's the easiest information to get to? The dates of employment. Now, dates of employment are expected and they do need to be included for the most part, maybe not in really old story, but the dates of employment are never a reason I do hire you. They're only a reason I don't hire you. So why would we ever put them front and center where that's a determining factor for us? So let's get those out of the eye pattern as far away as possible, maybe even a smaller font, not bold. Don't look here, even though it's included, and let the story take center stage. Also can't see Julia's employers. Now I know they're blurred out. I didn't do that. Whoever posted it blurred them out. Intellectually, I could go find them. Of course. I have seconds. Do you think I'm going to intellectually go find the employers on a stack of resumes like this? Not going to happen. And of course, with Julia in the bottom here, as far as a name, it splits the information architecture, and I don't know where to start. Do I start at the middle and bottom and go up? Again, not an effective resume. Martin here. Martin. Seen this style resume so many times in so many books. And eye-catching? Absolutely. Eye-catching for the right reasons? Absolutely not. First, with the positive, kudos to Martin on his brand. I get his brand. It's right there. Yes, I took off the contact information stuff you didn't need to see. But I'm not really sure of the decision to use 25% of the available real estate to tell me your name and contact information. That's not a good use of storytelling. And then we have an information architecture problem with these 2 columns, the blue column and the not blue column with the blue headlines. It's like, do I start down and go over, or do I go across for each? And information architecture problem of I don't know where to read, and it's your job to tell me. And if I just stand back, all I can actually see is education, internship, and personal skills. And those are gimmicky labels. That has nothing to do with your story itself. Your story is the one that should be center stage here. So when we think about our personal branding, we have mere seconds to capture that interest. We've got to have the right things in front of their eyes. For more clarity, resume is about catching or piquing their interest. LinkedIn is about closing the deal. So even though this is not the LinkedIn lecture, that's tomorrow, these two things are related. They're both influence vehicles. In my view, they need to be polar opposites. My view of a resume, I don't care what the background is, a single sheet of paper in all cases. I've had people flipping out at the New York State Department of Labor, giving the LinkedIn lecture. Resume happens to come up, just how LinkedIn came up today. And I happen to mention, single sheet of paper in all cases. Gentleman in the back is flipping out. Come on. What if you've been a CEO and you got a 30-year career? It's never going to fit. Take a breath. I hear you, but I don't think that reaction is because you don't like John's comment or opinion about resume length. I think it's because you find yourself sitting in the Department of Labor going, well, how come I'm here? How come no one can see my value? Not a surprise. This guy hires me, sends me his stuff. It is 6 pages of my eyes bleeding. CEO, COO before that, CFO before that, and 30 years of endless career that he just couldn't stop talking about because he loved it. It's an editing problem. You're never getting that to a single sheet of paper. Boom. Very effective on a single sheet of paper because you don't have to tell all the story that proves it. You have to excite them so they're ready for the conversation. That's the influence piece. So back to this dull brick in the head that we started with and how to begin to think about this as an example of how you need to transform. Even when we zoom in, it's not very effective. Yeah, I see the little events coordinator, but the rest of the brick in the head of text is so mind-numbing. There's no clarity. So you've got to create clarity with your resume, and you have to influence with the resume at the same time. That's clarity of your career path and story, and you have to influence them about your value. Why am I the one? You look at the much newer version and all the right pieces that the events person that's looking to hire wants to hire. Not all the dull pieces of story I don't have to talk about, just the right ruby, diamond, emerald drop of perfume served up on a silver platter to them. That creates the engagement, which I said, of course, is much, much closer to that style engagement. So let's jump into what I want to teach you about how to really make a great resume now. So we're going to come back to each one of these. These will go a little fast, but we're coming right back. You are a product too. Resume, the new definition. Your resume's goals and understanding stacks of resumes. Let's go back to the beginning. Or, well, I guess there's one more, the 3-second test for resumes. But back to the beginning, we're this product too. We may not like this concept. A little drink here. But I tell you, if we don't understand we're a product that's competing for shelf space, just like in the supermarket where it's Folgers or Kellogg's or whatever it might be, or the store brand. Do you want to be the store brand? Lower price. Oh, I like the price on the store brand, but the taste is always a little off. The coloring on the package is always a little off, but I like that price. Would you like to be that low priced, a little bit off, or would you like to be the national brand that draws the attention, the focus, and commands the higher price? So we have to think about ourselves as this product and how we position and sell and light and dress and make that up to be what they're looking for. Resume, the new definition. I hope you have a lot of ink ready, a lot to write here. Simple sales sheet that creates desire. You know, a few years back, the first time I did it 4 or 5 times. A few years back, I was up on stage next to Reverend Jesse Jackson at Rainbow Push Wall Street Project, really pinching myself, going, how did I get here? It was myself and like 4 other career coaches. I'm the only non-African American on stage. I'm the only male on stage besides Reverend Jesse Jackson. And I'm going, gosh, how do I get here to these places? By opening doors. We tend to go through everything, but including our job search and our career, as too transactional. Well, if I do this, what do I get? I don't know. I'm not really sure. But if you do the same thing you have been doing, I'm pretty sure we both know what you're going to get. So as I'm up on stage and I'm talking, I present my piece, suddenly the next speaker gets up and I was talking about this simple sales sheet that creates desire. And she goes, a resume that creates desire. Oh, that's really interesting. And then she launches into her own talk on career and resume. And then she goes, well, when I was reinventing my resume, I think the book is still in print. What? That's your lead-in? That you think the book is still in print from the time you reinvent it yourself and you think you have something relevant to say? everything is connected. So yes, your resume's job is to spark the desire, just like a dating process. What would make them cross the room? I have to introduce myself to you. I have to speak with this person. That's part of resetting your story, is creating that desire for your skill set, what you can possibly do for the new organization based on what they see, how you affected this older organization. Your resume's goals, well, let's be clear. It has one mission in life, which is to deliver the interview. But if we're going to get there, it has to have some goals itself. And that's a clear, clean, straightforward format. This is a format where the information itself jumps off the page. Specific items, not that I want to highlight, but what I think are of most interest to the decision maker, have to be put together in such a way that they can be easily absorbed. Look at that word, absorbed, not read, absorbed. Of course, we have to inform about educational background. Understanding stacks of resumes. No, I'm not a big fan of hitting that darn button, whether it says submit, apply, or whatever it might say. In fact, clients will call me up and they'll go, oh, John, I want to go after this job. I'm like, great, don't apply for it. Like, what? Don't apply for it. What? How do I get the job if I don't apply for it? Well, not a fan of applying for the job, but I will teach you in tomorrow's LinkedIn lecture how to use that whole process along with your resume to warm up the audience behind the firewall of the company and go after the decision makers directly. Much better than simply clicking apply to someone that really doesn't understand your background because they're in HR and they have some checklist put together in a ridiculous style. And somehow you have to match this magical checkbox list. And that's the only knowledge they have. So understanding stacks of resumes, if you disregard what I say and you click that darn apply button, what happens? Your resume goes off toward this gigantic black hole in space. We call it the data warehouse. If it reaches the data warehouse, kiss that resume goodbye. Not likely to ever see that again. But the one saving point is generally, not always, but generally on the way to the data warehouse, it stops by a real person and they all stack up until we have this stack of resumes. That's that 1,000, 2,000 resumes, and that's where it is. So that's the first thing. We're in this stack of resumes, and we have to quickly sort this stack of resumes into the viable and not viable, which we call, there might be somebody in here. That's stack one. That's the good one. That's the good one. maybe. Have to come back and take another look. Stack two. But they don't come back and take another look. Why would I ever come back and take another look at stack two when I have all new incoming exciting resumes to look at? These people couldn't quite convey their value to me the first time. It becomes a thanks but no thanks, just like number 3 dead end. Thanks but no thanks. Don't even know why you sent this resume in. I can tell you why those people sent it in, even though it was like, wow, this is so off target. They saw a job that they interact with all the time. They go, oh, that's a good job. They might have something for me. And then they throw their resume in just on the off chance, and it clogs the entire system. So I think you understand a little bit of this challenge, but maybe not the secret. The secret is the evaluation process. How much time do you get for them to make this decision about, oh yeah, maybe, not sure, have to come back, and not really. And it's 3 to 5 literal seconds. I know trainers tend to exaggerate everything, but here in this case, I mean it. You will not get longer than 5 seconds in any case. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. Decision, stack 1, 2, or 3 for you. And there's really no turning back. There's so much resume traffic, river flow from all the spammed resumes that get sent out. Your first goal is to get your resume into stack 1, or it's never really going to be read. Certainly won't read your cover letter before it's at least in stack 1, probably not even after that for a little more sorting. And probably not really even going to read your email message up until that point very much if they have a high volume. So we'll come back a little bit more to that. Let's talk about length. 1-page resume, unless it's two, but you see I'm pretty unhappy about 2-page resume. No time I will tell a client they can have a 2-page resume. I don't care about the length of your background. I don't care about how substantial your career is. If you can't get it onto a single page, then you don't know how to dazzle me. I need to see it uninterrupted in one view so I can have a crescendo with symbols at the end going, get them in here, get them on the phone. I simply must speak with them. That requires a single-page resume. What we're looking at, name, which is your brand, the last or current 3 employers and titles, your educational background. Here's a listening test. John said just put the last 3 employers on the resume. I did. When did I say that? I said what we're looking at. If you ask me a different question, John, what would you like on the resume? I'd like a resume to be complete from the time you entered the workforce to today. which would always call as gasps in my in-person audiences. They're like, I don't want to show all that. I didn't say that was the right solution for you. Again, it's a listening test. Some people do need to truncate their background, and I'll even show you how to do that if it's necessary. But the last three are current employers entitled is about time relevance of your skill set. That's why those are so important. But I would like to see it all. I'd like to experience the foundation you built and why you led to all these successes that I see here now. 3-second test for a resume. If you have your resume, just pull it out. Nothing to be embarrassed about. This is really just for you. When I tell you, not yet, when I tell you, you're going to look at your resume. And when I tell you to stop, you're going to stop. But you have to look at this resume as if I don't know this person, even though it's you. I don't know this person. And the time I give you, which stack are you going to put it in? Stack 1, 2, or 3. Take a look right now. And stop. Gave you the benefit of the doubt. I gave you the full 5 seconds, never getting longer than that. When I do the in-person audiences, I have quite a handful of people look up like deer in the headlights going, I can't tell you anything about this person. And it's me. You have a resume problem. It doesn't communicate. It doesn't position and sell you. You're relying on them reading, intellectualizing, digesting, and no one will do that any longer. That part of our process is long gone. I would argue a couple decades ago, but it's long gone today for sure. They can't even pay attention for a few seconds. I object to objectives all of the time. Objective statements, what I'd like to do, what I'd like to become someday. Nobody really cares. Maybe I care, but nobody cares. Nobody cares. Why don't you take all that clutter, which over time might become core competencies, highlights of this, highlights of that, all that nonsense, which we understand is to influence us. Oh yeah, I'd see resumes like that as a recruiter. Open them up, look at the name, shield my eyes. Don't look at that nonsense. Employer title, employer title, employer title. Decision after looking at education based on my view of those employers, right or wrong. My view of what I believe you did in those job titles without really looking at what you did. And my view of that education, oh my gosh. I hope the person you're sending it to is very, very similar to your background. Or how could they ever come to the same conclusion about your value as you feel? So I like to replace that with something I call the positioning title. Reuse that space. Why don't you just paint a bullseye of exactly what they're looking to hire? And that's how you begin to create magic. Now, you see this one, all I can see is profile, really. Even zooming in, what do I see? Profile. Maybe I get to high energy events before I snooze out on that nonsense. But I could simplify that. This is the same person, high energy events planner, specialist. This is who they are. Why don't I sell that piece of it? Or this is a different person, a campaign director, media and PR, community liaison, depending on what they're going after, or maybe a more complex background, accomplished sales professional, extensive experience and contacts across industries, software, hardware, services, just what I'm looking for. Story on this resume coming up. So back to the brick in the head resume. It's a tough challenge. I look at all this and I see some problems like, oh my gosh, why were we using, things that are vague, many aspects, or terrible language like coordinating. Ooh, you know what coordinating is done at a low level mentally, even though it happens on all levels. We think, oh, lower level. Oh, there's coordinated again. Oh, duties. You know what duties are like? Duty. Nobody cares. It's like, your resume should not be full of duties and responsibilities, even though it seems counterintuitive. If you are right for the role that I'm interviewing for, I already assume that you have the right duties and responsibilities. What I want to see is the transformative delivery. What did you do? How did you make change? How did you grow? How did you help elevate their brand? And we have to look for consistency things too, like even on the dates with a TO between the dates and a dash between the dates. Communicate your attention to details very, very low. New version is crystal clear on consistency. There's nothing like inconsistent to throw them off. But also we're in a world where people don't read. So it's not about making something beautiful that you want to hang on the wall. Well, I find a beauty in this, but the real beauty is it will deliver the interview, whether they like the style or not. Hand them what they need to choose you. Teaching them how to select you even starts at this level. And that means we have to look at everything. And this individual, it's interesting. They were so worried about age, they cut off Martha Stewart living. You want to work in events and you cut off the fact that you worked at Martha Stewart Living, or that you worked at House Beautiful Magazine and did an event at the Guggenheim, or did European Travel and Life and did event related things like photo shoots and those kind of things. I understand we may want to cut that story at some point, but we also have to understand how to cut it while retaining the value. Everything should become the reason they want to interview you. This is that resume I mentioned I would talk to you about earlier. Let me have a little sip here. A lot of magic in this one. Now, when I first worked with this person a few years back, I think they were 10, 12 years in this particular role. And their entire page is this contract furniture sales, someone that might sell like 1,000 desks type thing. And their entire resume spanned that 10, 12 years, just spewing out all the wonderful things they'd done, which was great. Except they'd send their resume out and they go, but we don't want a furniture salesperson. By the way, they were not looking for furniture. They were so done with furniture, but I can't get anyone to hire me. Well, quit talking about furniture. You're a salesperson. So the only thing that you may know Price Modern as a brand, I didn't at the time. Hayworth, certainly knew Hayworth as a brand. And the words corporate office furnishings, there it is. And it's not mentioned anyplace else. What is mentioned? Everything about sales. Achieved $50 million cumulative sales to date, ranked top 10 in revenues every year since 2002, developed a strong pipeline. Every single thing that would make a sales manager jump right out of their chair. Now, this person wanted to work in software, hardware, services. I'm like, that's a great field. Used to place it myself. Like, have you ever worked in it? Ouch. Holding their resume. Have you ever worked in it? They did like 15 years ago. So yes, this person's challenge was to sell 15-year-old experience along with their current sales and not get out of the ballpark to get back into software, hardware, services. So we take the positioning title and make it a dead bullseye for what they're looking for. That's a tiny bit of a 3-card Monty. We're saying not that we are currently doing that. We're saying we're qualified for that. We took their current role and condensed it to this super paragraph, and then we expanded the 2 earlier roles, which then allowed us to see software, hardware, and services on the resume. Very, very important. This is the bottom of a resume. A lot of things to teach you here that could be valuable for you here. I tend to like to split the bottom of the resume, especially single-page resume. But look at the last listing before we go to the bottom of the resume, because you may want to truncate your story if we're getting a little long in the tooth. A lot of competition from the younger generations who want it now, don't want to wait. And gosh, we had to build up a lot of expertise to earn it over years. But okay, if they want it right now, I get it. So we decided to end or begin the story, depending on the way we look at it, with EDS, Electronic Data Systems. If you're unfamiliar with them, they're one of those employers. Every industry has one of those employers that like, they hired you. You must walk on water. It must be amazing. Financial services, I think we know who that is. If you don't, it's Goldman Sachs. There's only one of them. Goldman Sachs is on the resume. You must be special. I'm sure a few of these companies hire some stinkers, but the perception is, you must be very, very good. So we decided to either end or begin the story with EDS. But there were 3 prior employers, and 2 of the 3 prior employers also were these stunning employers. Kaiser Permanente and PricewaterhouseCoopers, same perception of, you must be very, very good. Those 3 prior employers, though, these 3 extra jewels on the resume, added 17 years of extra time. Who needs to be 17 years older the next interview that you walk into, the next Zoom call you walk into? Not too many. Few people, not too many. So we cut the dates with the current story, and we just moved to prior, and we dropped the dates, and we don't have to think about it. Notice if I drop those dates there, I also have to drop the dates off education. Cannot allow them to do mathematics. Now, how old are you? Can't have that come up in their brain. They just need to be dazzled by what I can do. It's the passion and the energy will trump anything else. Sorry about that. These 3 prior employers, by the way, the Electronic Data Systems, that's 10-point bold. The prior employers, those are probably about 8-point bold. Titles next to those are probably like 7.5. The locations are probably down to 6.5, something like that. Very, very tiny. That's 3/4 of 1 inch on a sheet of paper. And some people think, it has to be big. No. The little sprinkle on top of that dessert, the drizzle on top of that, the cherry on top of that. They'll see it all. Dazzle them. Let them go, look at that. Further down, though, let's talk about the split at the bottom. Education. Now, there's 3 universities here, but only 2 qualified to have center stage. That's on the left, actually, not centered, but center stage. That's the master's and the bachelor's. The University of Maryland, and if this were your field, you're probably jumping out of your chair going, oh, PMP, PMP, oh my gosh, make it bold, put it at the top. It belongs here, and it belongs subservient to the degrees. That doesn't trump the degrees either. And I get it. Plus, it's also like the cherry on top of the dessert that I guarantee you they're not going to miss, the PMP. Ooh, impressive. Community involvement, does that even belong here? Only if you'd like to win. We'd like the character checkbox as well. So busy in my work life delivering value. And oh my gosh, you had time to give back to your community. The character checkbox, I need that. By the way, good works do not expire. Has to be letter true, but they don't expire. Doesn't matter when it was. You can handle that in conversation. By the way, if you're so enamored with that PMP or CPA or any other acronym you might have acquired, oh, there's a sneaky way to get that to the top. And that is I could simply go John Crant, comma, PMP or CPA or whatever else I'm after conveying up there. There's ways to do it if you think creatively without being disruptive, but to drive that value point home. Now, I said it requires the paradigm shift to solve these problems. Let's now move over to format. By the way, on your LinkedIn side, which is really important, we have to simplify that URL so it's nice, clean, not X24G, something I can't use. How about linkedin.com/in/John Crant? Very simple, clean, can go on a business card, top of a resume, back of my suit if I so deemed it appropriate. So on the top of the resume, your contact line should be a single line, not stacked up like a layer cake, taking up valuable real estate. That single line, start with your LinkedIn URL, city and state. I don't need to know that you lived at 123 any street. That's a bunch of nonsense these days from my view. Email address, cell phone number. Yes, cell phone number. I don't care if you can't get your cell phone in your home. It's the cell phone number. Notice the 2 things I really want them to do are the easiest ones to access on the outside. In fact, if you're not sold, click on my LinkedIn profile right there. Get there, and my 3-dimensional sales brochure will sell you the rest of the way. If you are sold, there's my phone number, easiest to get to on the far right in a Western world, left to right. There it is. Call me. Pick up the phone. So that'll help a lot. Let's look at some of these examples here. Good Samaritan Village, Salvation Army, United Way. Oh, gosh, I know 2 of those 3. Now, you see the positioning title at the top, always the bullseye. Good Samaritan Village. Now, I lived in Florida quite a few years, and I can tell you that every second or third mobile home or trailer park in Florida ends in the word village. Nothing wrong with working at a mobile home or trailer park, but this person doesn't work there, and you can't have them pick up the resume and go, nice background. Oh my gosh, really went into the toilet for you. No, this is another impressive employer, nation's largest not-for-profit long-term care organization. Think about how you're going to elevate things, and if it's a company they've never heard of, maybe you insert that positioning line that describes this employer as another substantial employer. Let me give you some sizing here. It's nowhere else. I make everything on the page 10 point. We go down from 10 point. These are not for you. Then we have to add some spacing. Let's give you the different sizing. If you need that special line describing the company, that's 8 point. The titles are all a half a point less than the brand. That means they're 9.5, not bold, because then they'd fight with the brand, but italicized so they work in harmony yet still draw attention. Bullet points themselves are 8.5 in size. Now, all this is going to get a little tight, a little hard to read. You're going to have to expand it. We'll show you how to expand it later. Spacing between the bullet points is 1.75 points of space. Spacing after the brand title is 2 points, same after that special line if you're going to use it. And spacing after your title is 4 points of space. We're going to show you how to do the spacing coming up here. So think about all of this work in the spacing makes it absorbable, makes it easy to read. So you can have a lot of different formatting here, but make a rule list so it stays consistent. So to add spacing is simply, on my version of Word, on your version, you're going to have to look up on Google to figure out how to do it. My version is simply go to Format, down to Paragraph, and now a little box pops up, and we can put in points after, whether it's 2 points or 4 points or 1.75 points, or even after the professional experience education, I like 8 points of space. enter there, and suddenly magically you have space. The other thing is space between the letters, or even to condense them sometimes. If it's just it's a hair long and goes onto a second line, but I need it just to fit on one line, you can condense it a little bit. So I go up to format down to font this time. Then in that window, I can click on advanced, and then I can either expand or contract the character spacing by a 0.1 or 0.2 or 0.3. Those are not big expansions, very tiny. 3, 4, 5 iterations to get to the right resume. Don't stop until you are really done. Your work pedigree, you may get to 3 to 5 seconds, but you're really missing a piece of the evaluation. It's the quality of these companies. So I better have heard of these companies. If I haven't, it's a different challenge. And going forward, my advice would be try not to accept a job from any company you've never heard of, or the person next to you has never heard of, because it's not really going to help lift your brand. You're married to these brands in your career forevermore. Of course, we're looking at titles and accomplishments and educational background. Here's the proof. World's simplest resume. Todd Smith, Nestle USA, Quality Assurance Director. Kraft Foods, Quality Assurance Manager. Coca-Cola Company, Quality Assurance Engineer. University of Florida BS in Agriculture. If this is all that's on the resume, guarantee it's the world's simplest resume. What can I get? Well, my gosh, I see career progression. I see engineer to manager to director. So I get that trajectory, got the degree. That's usually a pretty good thing. These are some stunning employers, aren't they? Aren't they? How do you know? A lot of times I'll ask my in-person audiences, who's worked for an amazing company? And like 3 hands go up. I'm like, really? Most of them are all messed up. Now, I never worked food and beverage, so I don't really know, but most of them are stuck in endless reorganization like a meat grinder. These are probably the same, but the perception of the brand is, you must have learned something or learned what not to do. I don't know what it is. Value everywhere, but nowhere to be seen. You saw a resume with nothing on it, and there was value. Where you're going to add value or lose it is in those bullet points. They have to have tangible, deliverable things, exciting things to your story. So think about how you're going to talk about increasing revenues or decreasing expenses or increasing efficiency or decreasing inefficiency, somehow, of course, affecting performance. And all of that has to transform across the resume. Watching our time, we're going to zoom right in here. Degrees of degrees. The truth, nothing but the truth. You have the degree, get it on there. You don't have the degree, but you have time in school, put the university or college, put coursework toward field of study, not coursework toward a BS and whatever. That's too much baloney. No 3-card Monty on a degree. Be very, very straightforward. Designing your resume, well, really, it's about moving your brand forward and helping them visualize your brand value and an educational and career path and all of those pieces. This word, last word really about Word. Not a fan of Microsoft, would be, but their software tends to be, sorry, I'm on the worst crap on the planet. And it's pervasive like a virus. But do I do resumes in Word? Of course. I'd never send one in Word, send it in a PDF. That's different. So watch my Headless Horseman video over my YouTube channel. It'll guide you through it. Convert it over to a PDF once you do all this masterful work to make it work. If you dared send it in a Word document, you really have no idea what it looks like on the other end. It's going to completely reflow by their preferences file, which might be similar to yours or might be a completely different animal. Take your first step with your resume. Repeat. Do 3, 4, 5, 6 iterations. Get to the right version of that resume. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., we're going to be presenting you building your professional network and your career brand with LinkedIn and really how to use it for your job search tomorrow at 10 a.m. Please do tune in for that. Thursday, we're going to have interview intervention. There it is. All the secrets to teaching them how to select you. That's 10 a.m. on Thursday. Please do like, comment, share these with your friends. Everything else, it does help. I really appreciate that. Here's a little look at the schedule itself. And thank you guys for tuning in today. And we will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Take care. Have a great day.